Here we go then, guys. Welcome back to the next Empower podcast episode, the show where I get to speak to world-class martial artists from the safety of my own home, far away from any risk of flying kicks or surprise takedowns. Today's guest is Professor Nicolas Saignac, a true master of Savate. It's a slick, sharp, stylish form of French kickboxing. Somehow they make it look classy, but it's terrifying precise as well. It's amazing. He's spent decades teaching around the world, training champions, proving that Savate isn't just effective, it's beautiful, it's brutal all at once. We're going to talk about his journey, the evolution of the art, why French footwork isn't just for fashion runways. We'll get into it, and thank goodness this is online, or I'd be interviewing with full body armor on. So, Professor Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very, very excited.
No, thank you for coming on. We've spoken before for my book, Martial Masters Volume 2, where we went into kind of your background, things like that. So we're going to focus on some other things today, if that's all right, because if people want to know about your background, they can go and buy the book at a very reasonable price of $12.99 on Amazon. Go check it out, available worldwide. Shameless plug. Yeah, perfect. But we will start just for a recap in how you got started in Savate, if that's okay. So how did it all begin for you in Savate, and why Savate?
So how did it begin and why? How did it begin? It began, I was 17 years old, and really I didn't have great idea of where I wanted to go with my life. And I just happened to go to a free class with my roommate, and I was like love at first sight. At the time, I think I had a kind of a wrong idea of what it was, because I saw when I was a kid and I liked it. There was a show on French TV called Les Brigades du Tigre. And so it was like right before the First World War, and they were training, but the look was not quite appealing to me. However, I liked the fighting and the kicking. So once I got to experience it, then I was like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Okay. So, and I got into it, and I never looked back after that.
Perfect. What was your first class like? Were you kind of nervous? Did you jump in it right from the start? Were you quite athletic naturally?
It was, one of those classes you go with a friend, and it's fun. It's playful. It's you try new things, and it seems to work, and a lot of positive reinforcement, and that was it. I mean, that's basically like what I needed at the time, and it was just perfect.
Perfect. Okay, cool. I think it's fair to say that you got the competition bug fairly early on, and you quite liked competing. Yeah. So what was it about the competition aspect that you like? Was it kind of the adrenaline side of it and getting those nerves? Was it the strategy? Was it a little bit of everything?
So I think at first, like my first appeal was like the techniques, like developing, kicks that allow you to keep people away.
Sure.
So I was not very aggressive. That definitely changed with the level of competition. But first, it's one of the things that I like and that definitely fit me was the fact that I was doing only light contact for the first couple of years.
Okay.
So light contact doesn't mean that you don't get hit and it doesn't hurt. Okay, I think people have the wrong idea of what that means. It's definitely a big step up from sparring.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a big step down from fighting. It's, my coach used to say, it's light contact is just fighting without power. And that's what it is. But when you get kicked in the head, it hurts.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
So those were the first steps. And I, to be honest, I was not very good at winning. I was having fun doing it. I wasn't really worried about the decision. It was not something that was important at the time. I just felt like I was still growing, and it was still keeping me motivated enough to keep going.
Perfect, yeah. And who do you think your biggest influences were at the time in your martial arts career? Was it your instructor at that point, or you're looking further afield at other things as well?
So, I think it's like any fighting art. It's to be motivated by this. It's you need to have a coach that is definitely putting that into you and making you feel like you're good enough to do it, and it's going to be good for you, and
Yeah.
is able to pick up like intrinsic qualities that they can develop, and then play with the weaknesses that need to be that you need to get better at. So coach was the first influence, and then a lot of fighters, I would say. And I didn't pick just in Savate. In Savate, there was like guys like Richard Silla was like the big champion at the time, and he was the first one who beat Pete Cunningham for WK title in 1987. So
Wow.
that's as far back as, yeah. And then later on, it was at a time where like getting videos of fights was a difficult thing.
Sure.
So Benny Okides was a big name.
Yeah.
Bill Wallace, even though I'd never watched any of his fights, but a lot of my learning in martial arts and kickboxing and American kickboxing came from reading martial arts magazines, which
Sure.
I'm so sad. It's not so much available here, even though Black Belt started to reissue
Cool.
printed papers
Yeah.
magazine recently, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
But there was this mystique, because like writers are amazing people that make you see things in their own eyes, which is not necessarily the way you look at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if
Definitely.
you know any better, then you have this vision, and you kind of play with that, and that allows you, I think, to be creative with the little bit that you feel that you understand or so there was those people. There was also, it was a time where Dutch kickboxing was starting to be a thing,
Yeah.
and it was very interesting. Like the Savate world at the time was very interesting because the Vos Academy was bringing a lot of fighters to fight in Savate, and I had a chance, fairly recently, to meet people that were from that era. Lucia Riker being one of them. He wanted people to fight in Savate because he felt I was a kickboxing art that was developing combinations, like the ability to combine kicks and punches, and with long range kicking, and also adding a footwork part that he felt wasn't there in other styles.
Okay, interesting. That kind of leads on to the next question then about what you think makes Savat so unique in compared to kind of the American kickboxing, compared to other styles of kickboxing.
So I would, for me, I would emphasize the footwork before anything else. But
Yeah.
that's a very personal way of delivering and teaching, because I feel like the footwork is really the basis for to make work any technique that you have. So that's to me first, and then the second one is the fact that we kick with shoe, and that allows you know well, that definitely conditioned the way kicks are being delivered. So the leg
Sure.
being extended, that range, the fact that you can kick with the shoe, that you have to kick with the shoe, actually. That's the only part that's allowed to make contact with, and the different parts of it. So that range and the versatility, also,
Mm.
like the variety of techniques, I think is what makes it different and interesting for people that have a different background.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Where did the shoe come from? So how come that they do kick with shoes in Savat and it's not barefoot? Do you know kind of the history of that?
I'm not really sure. What I know is, history is like a dynamic science where you find some primary
Yeah.
sources and then you make, like you build a theory on it, and it's the one that people are going to follow until something else
Yeah,
happens.
of
So
course.
the shoe, I think that the efficiency of the shoe came from the wooden boot, and there was like a form of punishment under the Napoleon War, that where someone would be tied up to a pole, and then you would, kick the shin with basically the wooden boots.
Right, okay.
So you can imagine damage that
Yeah,
that would
ouch.
do.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I only read one source that So was it right? Was it true? That's
We'll
what
go
the
with that.
writer.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
go with that with lack of information. But yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, it's from shin kicking people
And
with a wooden boot.
but it definitely was, when you look at the old pictures of people fighting, definitely people who had, like first started in the street. So people at the time were wearing shoes, and then kicking with what they had, and so that was basically the point, the toes, and then the instep, and so all those different parts, and so the techniques developed from. I think in any art, it's what weapons do you have, what condition the technicality and um, um, the mechanic interpretation of this.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. You say you started off then with light contact. Did you then move into kind of like the full contact arena, or did you stay with the light contact?
Yeah, that was definitely like a logical progression, and
Yeah.
that's having this safety net was really, to me and to a lot of people, like you couldn't fight full contact until you were 18 years old.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's you compete within your own level, technical level. So at first, blue and green, which are the first two color gloves, and
Sure.
then red and white, and then yellow and silver, and then after you had to be yellow glove in order to be able to enter the full contact.
Okay. Yeah. So you already had to be a high standard in order to go into full contact. You couldn't be
Exactly.
a low standard.
So you had to be able to demonstrate like the wide variety of all the techniques in order to be able to do full contact,
Sure.
which I think is a good thing. Like having this technical requirement is really what I think makes about what it is. Like from the lower level, you can see how people are improving.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. How did you find that transition then, going from more of the light contact, then going up through the stages, and then going into the heavy contact or the full contact?
So I like the beginning stage. There was a big difference with the first fight,
Yeah, yeah.
which I did not finish. It was like the worst experience, and I still have nightmares about it. Where
Yeah.
I'd for whatever reason, I'd never worn headgear, and you had to fight with headgear. Like the
Right.
first 3 to 4 fights for contact, you have to wear headgear and shin guards, and of course, groin protector and mouthpiece.
Sure.
And the first big punch I got, it was a hook, and the headgear like completely shut. And then I was like, "Wow, what's going on?" And the guy kept, like punching. If the ref doesn't stop, then there's no reason not to stop.
Sure, yeah.
Uh, so that was a disaster.
Yeah.
I was not ready for that. It wasn't tight enough. I had never worn a headgear at the gym before, and I don't like. I mean, like I never want people to be in that situation to fight with it, in a certain way with certain rules, and not being prepared and not
Yeah.
having, all like a feeling for everything that you have. So if you're gonna fight, in amateur boxing and you wear a headgear, you have to get used to the headgear at the gym. There's no better way to get prepared for sure.
Yeah. The headgear
And
sucks, but
that's,
it's an interesting point because obviously it's there for the safety of the fighters,
yeah,
supposedly. But
that's it.
do you believe it's effective? Like, because there's been mixed results now in terms of the headgear and whether it's safe to have the
I'm not
headgear
convinced
on,
it is.
off.
I'm not convinced it is. Um, it's what I think is, it's important to understand what the impact is and how you react to the impact. That's for sure. I think there's still studies being done.
Yeah.
It's I'm really not sure how much of the impact it actually takes away, unless it's really, really well padded. But when it
Mm.
is, the problem is that it's so thick that it reduces your peripheral visual
Yeah.
champ, and that makes it more difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's a tricky one, but yeah, it's an interesting one. As you say, the results are still being kind of done, aren't they, in terms of impact with the head and things like that. But it's interesting to hear people who have fought full contact and then kind of move across. Did you then go into your more experienced ones then, where it was full contact but without the headgear on, the shin guards, etc.?
Yes,
Mm.
yes, and So having grown so much from this first experience and not, like realizing that what I was doing in terms of training and just having fun and feeling like I was better than everybody else and definitely push me to put my feet back on the ground and really kind of reflect on what it is that first what I wanted to do and,
Sure.
and things that I needed to change in order to get better. So it was a great learning experience. So the first thing I did was to, think back about how I was training and what I needed to do. And so definitely training harder, definitely changing my frame of mind, completing my training at the gym with, something else. And that what I found I was lacking more than anything was boxing skills.
Yeah.
So I went to a boxing gym, and that's another thing where I never look back, and I really find a couple coaches, some that I felt were more suited to what I wanted to do, that were
Mhm.
more open to the fact that I was coming from Savate, and yes, I wanted to box, but it was first to complete what I was doing as
Yeah.
opposed to not. So having to find a transition to what boxing brings to the table and what is not really realistic to use when you kick.
Yeah, sure. So there's a difference there for you. Was that in terms of like range or the moves that you were or the way that you were working your feet and your hands together in conjunction?
Yeah. So and I had a chance to first train with one guy that was coming from the National Training Center. So he had fought at mature level at like the highest level because he was part of the French team.
Yeah.
He was very open and very excited about teaching because really at the time boxing, I mean, I'm talking about like the late 80s,
Yeah.
boxing was very traditional.
Yeah.
And so you had former pro fighters that were teaching the jab for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And so I'm not saying that you cannot apply that skill, but you need more to completely training
Yeah.
and to use it as a complement to what you do.
Yeah.
And you're not really starting from scratch because you have other attributes. And and the problem is they were again like too traditional. And the stance being a little too wide to be efficient enough, because wide stance is good for people who like to kick the legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect,
Definitely.
right? Um, so again, that young guy was like an anomaly in the world of boxing in France at the time,
Sure.
and it was more of a thinker and really had this understanding that okay, no problem, we can make it work and we'll work it together, and that was fascinating. It was a wonderful experience. He understood that my priority was Savate. He respected that. He respected the fact that when I was training and competing, then I wouldn't be boxing, coming to the gym as much.
Yeah.
Um, but he had a good communication with my coach as well. And he let my coach, come in corner when I had my first boxing fights. I mean,
Oh,
it
cool.
was it was just perfect. Like there was really like a great complement to what I was doing,
Yeah.
and great understanding between each other,
Yeah. That's
which
what
I
you
think
want.
was so important.
Definitely. So you started having some success in the ring then after that. So you kind of went back, stripped it all back, changed it, added your boxing in, went in, and then thought, yeah, I'm a little bit more confident. How did your career kind of progress after that then?
After that, it was I think it was very logical, where I understood that I needed to make sacrifices because I wanted to make that my priority, and then really like pushing the physical side, uh, and including like road work and
Yeah.
work outside of the gym.
Yeah.
And I felt like once I started doing this, it gave me a level of confidence that I didn't have before,
Yeah.
because I felt like I was doing more than the people that I would be fighting against.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So you're working harder than them.
And so, was it true or not? I don't know. You can measure what other people do, but what I know is that in terms of confidence, it was huge for me.
Yeah, amazing. I think that confidence going into a ring is a huge thing, or going into any fight, or going into anything in
Absolutely.
terms of
And
that,
any
having the mental
field of
aspect of
that,
it.
if you think of it, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, the mental aspect of it's huge. Let's kind of turn it to you becoming a teacher then. So going from kind of that role of being a student and then moving up into coach, was that a natural transition for you? How did it kind of shift?
it was, and it was actually, I would say, working in parallel, in the sense that when I started training in Savate, I was working with kids,
Yeah.
and I was working doing like awake, sleepy camp and things like that. So what that gave me is like a flexibility in terms of schedule,
Mm.
where outside of those school vacation, then I would be dedicating my time to just training and competing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, cool. And what do you see as some of the differences then between coaching someone who's just in it or who's a beginner maybe compared to a fighter then who's looking to kind of take it competitive? Do you see the two as different? Do you want beginners to compete at some point? Do you think it's a good experience? And then how do you kind of shift them into that gear of then competing and becoming almost a fighter?
So I respect people, what people are looking for, and I definitely think back about my own experience of Savate and coming in there with not wanting to compete,
Yeah.
and remembering those first stage of competition where I was definitely not aggressive enough. And if I had stayed that person, I wouldn't have been successful in terms
Sure.
of competition. But knowing this, and how that built my level of confidence to just grow as a person, period, and led me to what I'm living today, I would highly recommend people to do that.
Yeah, perfect.
And I feel comfortable with this because I know there's this outlet for people, the light contact, that really anyone can benefit from.
Mm.
And you don't have to go any further than that. Like, I completely respect that people don't want to do full contact,
Yeah.
but I think putting yourself on the line, and in order to check your technical skills, your physical skills, your mental skills, those are great. Great things to work on and to explore for people who want to. I completely understand that people just some people just want to do it for the sake of doing it, and maybe it's just fitness.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if it's fitness and then they just work at the bag, then that's great. But it's giving them the opportunity, and again, that's an opportunity to look a little outside of that box, is something that anyone can grow from. I had a chance, when I started teaching. I was teaching in a different setting when I came to the United States. So one of them was fitness. The other one was more like traditional martial
Yeah.
schools where people would come and some would get interested. And then, a place like Center Academy where it's high level martial artists that,
Yeah.
some people were fighting at the time, Eric Paulson, Chad Stahelski,
Sure.
Ron Bailey, like all of
Big
those
names.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really had those three different venues with, different teaching goals. And some people would mix and start in fitness and go to the martial art, and then from there go to the academy, and then, get into competition.
Hmm.
It's, I think, one goal doesn't mean that, once you achieve that goal, you cannot go into another one.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, you'd actually just isolate that one. You can bounce around between them, I suppose. You
Yeah.
mentioned they're moving to LA, where you now currently live. How was that shift
Mhm.
then, moving from France to LA? When did it happen?
It
And why?
was it was very interesting. So I came to be with the person that I choose to live my life with at the time, and she was originally from Long Beach, California, and we moved to Venice. I didn't think my goal was not to go teach and go to the academy. Um, I don't know. It didn't seem like something that I could do. It was not even. I wouldn't say never really crossed my mind,
Sure.
but I just happened to meet some people, having contacts uh, through the International Federation with people that were affiliated with the Innocenter Academy,
Mm.
which was just a few blocks away from, where I got to meet them and start training. So, but it really like the ball got running like really, really quickly. I mean, I moved here in May of 1992. Within a couple of months, I met Francis Echinor, who was an instructor under Guru.
Yeah.
And he was, he had this own gym or place that he was renting with Chris Kent,
Yeah. Cool.
also from the academy.
Yeah.
And to kind of draw people that were interested in competing in Savate and exploring the art, a little bit further. Then I met Chad Stahelski and Mark Stewart there, and then that was just the beginning. And then things just keep running, and from one to the other, and people are inviting me, and having good feeling with people, working, sparring with people, and I don't know. I mean, asking question, hey, I like how you do this, like,
Sure. Yeah.
and vice versa, like having exchanges with those type of people was fantastic.
Yeah. I can imagine.
And
Yeah. How did you mentioned there like legends like Guru Santo, Coach Eric Paulson, Ron Balicki, Chris Kent, etc. How did training with high end martial artists like this kind of shape your own philosophy and your own way of training? Did a little bit rub off on you?
it changed it in a big way. So first of all, what was interesting is at the time, those people were fighting, but they were really getting into their fighting career.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of competitive experience in a lot of different style, but the striking was not necessarily the one thing that they were the best at.
Sure.
And having the chance to, so it was, like none of those guys had the big head and thought that they were, the kick boxer top of the world or
Yeah.
anything like that. When people were coming out of the academy, like when Lucia Riker came, that was a little bit different. Like she was like definitely on top of the kickboxing world, and had been for a few years. But I would say Ron and Eric didn't put themselves in their place. They got to that place after fighting, particularly Eric, because he was the first American to win in shoot wrestling. And but at the time we got started, it was, let's train and have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's starting to get some fights, and then you could see, Eric on TV fighting in, the first MMA, like the World Combat Championship, and
Sure.
and it was very, very exciting. But again, it's like you feel like you there while they train, and you help them with the training, and you spar with them, and it's just you one part of the puzzle, and that's how it is.
Yeah, 100%. Have you got any kind of stories or moments with these like MMA fighting legends that kind of stick in your mind? Maybe putting you on the spot now. Sorry.
No, I mean, I don't think like there was one time, because it was like, so Ron and Eric, who are the two from the academy that kept fighting. Chad Sahelski fought, Jason Zubio fought as well. It was a daily ground with them. Like we were in there together. Like I don't feel we put anybody on top of each other or whatever. We just like meshed together. So Chad, who was fighting at the time, when he fought twice in Savate, he was invited at the European Championship. I think it was in 88 or 1990.
Okay.
1992. Something like this. I mean, he fought 2 years in a row. He went in the summer to fight there. And so as good as it was, like I definitely had more competitive Savate experience that he did at the time, because he only had 2 fights. So it was, I think he felt like I could, help him reach a level that where he wasn't at yet.
Sure. Yeah. To
And
give
so it
an
was
extra
very
push.
open and having me helping. And then, from him, like with Eric and Ron, it was kind of the same thing. Like Ron had done Savate for a longer time because he came from Chicago, and he first started competing in, I think, 1987 was the first time he
Okay.
had a Savate fight. So, uh, but same thing, even though he had a lot of martial art competitive experience, there was not so much in Savate. I think he only had like, a few fights. So it put me in a position where I had a little bit more experience of the game. And then, I had the coach who was like really, really at the high level. And I think from picking his brain, I was able to use a lot of the tools that he gave me, and that I was able to, share with them. I think that's really was what it was at the time. But I was not competing at the time, so I was more like, coaching. And then with Chad, it's really our idea was to give people an opportunity to train like fighters and to get on the ring and try their skills. And so we had really good thing going at the academy for quite a few years, and it was exciting. It was basically an open session to the people who wanted to train like fighters.
Yeah, perfect. How well known was Savat when you kind of came into the scene in LA? Was it a well known art, or was it, I don't know? Yeah.
It, my feeling is that it was definitely part of the JKD curriculum.
Hmm.
Most of like all the top instructors had been through it, trained with Daniel Duby, trained with Salem Asli, who took over after. And it really was, well, I think, spread out as being part of the curriculum.
Cool.
I wouldn't say Savate was a big thing. In 87 or 88, there was like a Savate competition here in LA. I mean, when I say in LA at
Yeah.
the Strand in Redondo Beach, and there had people, so there was a few Savate places, where people could train and train to compete as well.
Yeah.
But there was not a circuit of competition that allowed them to
Sure.
stick with it.
Sure.
And that's something that came, with Chad invited me to teach at the academy at my own little place, and then there was a few more people. Like we were able to really develop this light contact circuit where people could practice, go to Europe to compete, and we had a good, we had enough clubs so we could have competition on a regular basis,
Sure.
and that's really what makes people getting better at competing.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And so the best was, I would say, 2006. We had 12 competitors at the World Championship, the Light Contact Championship in 2006, and out of those 12, 6 made a medal.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, it was very nice. It was the best results we ever had as a country, and so it was really exciting. And the thing that was interesting is half of those people who made medal were people that started with the goal of just doing it for fitness at the beginning.
Okay. Interesting.
And so and women particularly, who came just for fitness and just got the bug and wanted to get better and keep practicing and and competing. And the first competition, the first time we brought people in 2000, I don't think any one of them even won one match.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's you keep the team together, and they build an experience, and they just make adjustment in the training. And then 6 years later, like, I think, yeah, 3 out of those 6 that made medal started having never won a bout before, and
Perfect.
then just building, like every couple of years we would send a team, and so got better. And that's really what was exciting. And so there were actually, I would say, older than most nations, where in Europe, I think people tend to be younger to practice this type of activity. And once
Yeah,
they get into a career, then they kind of push that aside.
sure.
For all those sports that are amateur, then that's what it is. Here it was a little bit different, where people are already career, they want to do this, kind of go back in time and see and explore this competitive part of them.
Yeah, sure. You're obviously one of like the main people that promoted the art of Savate when you moved to LA, and obviously keep promoting it now. Have you had any challenges in promoting the art, like from those early days in the 90s up till now? Have there been any challenges with it, or has it been, fairly well received the whole time?
Challenges, yes, every day. So the main challenge is not to have seen like a big growth from that time.
Right.
So 2006 was really a time where I felt that I'd done my job, like putting people in that place where there was a structure, there was like a schedule of competition, there was good communication and good exchange, not just in California but with other states, and that it was a good place to start growing
Sure.
or to keep growing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I pushed myself away from this, and then still send some competition, but like the schedule dropped down,
Hmm.
the attendance to those competition dropped down, and the level dropped down
How come it dropped?
because not enough people participated. Like not enough people really took the time to keep people together as a group, like dealing and being being the person who is going to like mediate,
Sure.
the feelings between different gym owners,
Yeah, yeah.
and it works for a while. I really didn't want to do that. Like I really wanted to focus on my kids that were getting older, not old, but they were young, and I wanted really to dedicate my time
Sure.
for them.
Yeah, yeah. That makes
So
sense.
I didn't teach for a while. That's really the period where I started to shift my focus from Savate to family life, and getting into classroom teaching
Yeah,
as opposed to gym teaching.
sure.
And then, spending those evenings instead of at the gym training people, then, being at home and make dinner and spend the time with my kids once they out of school
Yeah,
until they go to bed.
yeah, yeah.
So,
How did you
uh,
find coming out of that shift then? So you kind of trained really, really heavily, were at the gym a lot, coaching people, going to the worlds, etc. Tailored it off, spent time with family, and then now you're kind of back up and training a
mhm.
lot, training Guru Dan, training a lot with other people as well, promoting the art again. So it's kind of gone like a bell shape for you, I suppose.
Yeah, it
How did it
really is.
kind of go back up?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you really like summarize exactly the way it's been. So I've never been completely out of it. I kept like teaching seminars here and there, but it was just easier to dedicate and go like a weekend out of a month. Taking time off. That was fairly easy.
Sure.
Like training a few people over the weekend was one thing, but really the week was like the bulk of this was just family stuff. So I mean, the training was gone, for like almost 20 years. Like,
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, um, but getting back into it, it's like I feel like completely refreshed, and I wouldn't say starting from scratch, but really like rediscovering the joy that made me like the art so much.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. So you had to have that back away time to have a bit of a
Yeah,
fresh set of
and
eyes, maybe?
sorry, I didn't hear that.
Like a fresh set of eyes. So you're seeing it.
Yes,
Yeah,
completely. For the first time, so starting to going back to the academy a couple of years ago and not having the opportunity to train with shoes
yeah,
completely changed the outlook. I mean, when I say completely, not completely,
yeah.
but I had never trained without shoes before.
Sure.
I mean, I did a couple of Muay Thai sessions, but I wouldn't say that was consistent training. Before that, so yeah, it was different, and just like getting into like going back to Cali without having practiced for 20 years. I didn't have much left. And I really felt like, being in those classes, like I was the lame duck,
Yeah, yeah.
trying to coordinate. Okay,
I
because
feel
it's
your pain.
so complex. But I like the thinking process, and I like the learning process. It's really something that I found fascinating. And at my age, I think it's even more important.
Mm.
Like I really feel like I need to do that for myself, because if I don't do it now, and if I don't push myself to keep learning, like identifying patterns, memorizing patterns, practicing patterns, then what's like I need that for this kind of brain activity. I think that's super important, and I feel like a lot of people do not understand how important that is.
Yeah, for sure. There's been studies
Because
now,
you
haven't
can
there, with
see,
like cognitive Kali and things like that.
yeah,
And obviously, Guru
uh-huh.
Dan's a great example at 88 years old now. We're moving
Oh,
around and memorizing these
yeah,
patterns. And,
I know.
I'm sure he can attribute a lot to that, of using the both sides of the brain and working the left and the
Mhm.
right, and that kind of
Yes.
that cognitive aspect. Like a moving Sudoku, people have said Kali's like. So, yeah, for
Yeah,
that brain
yeah,
development,
that's
I think
that's
it's
a
ace.
great analogy for sure.
Yeah. Mm.
So yeah, it's been like a completely new experience for me. I feel like sparring is like the timing at least is always. I wouldn't say always there. That's that's a little too much, but um, just being able to play again,
Sure.
and challenge myself,
Yeah.
and having fun with it. I mean, I spar, I love, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love, try to find ways to control the people with the technique of the experience that you have, and then having to use different attributes as well.
Hmm.
Because it's one thing to be 30 and having a good competitive level, and and spar and train with people who don't have the same level.
Yeah.
uh, well, now it's very different, because at my age, I mean, I don't have the speed that I used to have,
Yeah.
and in terms of pure speed, I cannot compete with someone who's half my age.
Sure.
Like physiologically, there's no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what it's like. That's what it is. I have to use other things. I have to make you make mistakes and make you pay for those mistakes. But it's
A thinking
it's a
game now.
different game, different level of challenge, and I think that is probably what I enjoy the most.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the distance not being the same either. Like I cannot use my toes the way I'd like to with the shoes,
Hmm.
the way I do when I teach Savate seminar. But when I spar in JKD with no shoes, or when I spar in Muay Thai with no shoes, it's definitely a different game.
Yeah, 100%. What advice do you think you'd give yourself as a younger fighter looking back now? You said obviously you've had this big career and this big journey. What advice looking back would you kind of go, I could have done that, I should have done that, I would do this? Or is there any advice, or do you think, it's all good?
Any advice? I think the biggest advice I can give to people is give you a chance to explore as long as you can.
Mm.
Like I feel like when I decided to travel in '92 and come to the US, to be with the person that I loved at the time, and still the same, by the way.
Yeah,
So I'm glad I made that choice. But yeah, well,
yeah.
you know, I'm glad I made that choice. I also think that somewhere I may not have given myself the chance to explore a little bit more,
Okay.
like longer competitive period, and maybe try other styles, like American kickboxing,
Yeah.
or WK or Muay Thai, or I think if I would have been alone and not in a relationship at that time, I most likely to have focused longer on the competitive time,
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
and to really know where I was, because you stop early, you got I mean, I got one title, and I was happy with it.
Yeah.
And how many could have gotten, like, could have gone all the way to the world level? Yeah, maybe who knows.
Sure.
So yeah, it's always it's always in the back of your head until or unless you actually give yourself the chance to explore as far as you can go.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel like I didn't do that. Now, if I'm reflecting on my own journey, is it really something that I wanted at a time? Or did I try to escape this, to a certain way and just being happy with what I had?
Yeah.
I think it's very likely as well.
There we go then. Everything happens for a reason.
But, I'm happy with what I did. And having regrets is not going to help anything.
No, it's done. Yeah. It's done.
So, it's done. I turned the page. I'm happy with what happened after that.
Yeah.
I don't think I should change that for any reason, really. I'm here. I've been living in California for, since 92. I'm happy with my family. I'm happy to start, being on training wagon again, and working with every now and then with top fighters, along the way. That's always super motivating as well, and so rewarding.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
cool. All right. We've got some quick fire questions then to finish off with.
okay.
So the first one is going to be your favorite strike or favorite technique in Savate.
So favorite technique, favorite strike. It's the low fouette bar, the low round kick.
Yeah.
Back leg.
Why?
Yeah, because I always felt that's the one I was doing the most damage with.
Okay, good.
And I was laying the foundation for all the rest of the techniques that I would bring.
Perfect. So it set up everything else.
Getting landing it over and over and over and over, and really getting the opponent worried about it and affected by it. Whether it's physical or mental, then that allows you to start changing and mixing things around.
Perfect. What do you think is the most challenging thing for beginners to learn in Savate?
How far you can go, how far you can push yourself.
Interesting. Mentally. What, physically, mentally, spiritually?
Mentally.
The whole
mentally.
Thing? Mentally.
Yeah, mentally, because the mental dictates everything.
Definitely. Great. Any injuries? Have you ever had any injuries that have kind of left you incapacitated for a while?
Not during my competitive time. Nothing significant.
Perfect.
I mean, sprained ankle after a fight, yes, of course. Bruised chins, of course. I had one cut in training at the National Training Center, but it was a matter of a couple of weeks. Nothing that affected, what I had to do, like, I had to pull back from a fight or anything like that.
Perfect.
It's in training, like more recently, like in the past, 10, 15 years, yes. Like ACL.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Hip replacement.
Yeah. But you're still training.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Good
still training, and I'm glad I got those surgeries.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't do it any differently. I would do it earlier if I could.
Sure, yeah.
Made that decision, but no, for sure.
Last question then. If you could fight any opponent in history, dead or alive, doesn't matter, who would you fight and why?
Who would I fight? So, like if it was boxing, like it would be Sugar Ray.
Okay, yeah.
Just because to me, he had everything. He had everything. He had speed. He had power. He had stamina. He had like such an incredible will.
Tick.
Turn fight around even when he was in trouble, and so beautiful to watch.
Sure.
Footwork, combination flow, like all of that. And then in kickboxing, Sugarfoot, Cunningham, for the same reason.
Yeah.
For the same reason, because his, both of them are incredibly talented, but they are so sound and so efficient defensively, like able to fight, on the way back, and I mean, do everything. They do everything, but like I found, like, Sugarfoot, when he has someone putting a pressure on him, that makes him shine even more.
Sure, yeah.
Because that's really how is displaying his like technical ability and
Timing.
distance and footwork.
Yeah.
And so yeah, fighting at a different level. So those are the two guys. There's things that I admire in people that I couldn't do. But yeah, those two guys for sure. In Savate, Richard Silla.
Yep. Reasons?
Same.
Yeah.
He's the one who cut me at the National Training Center.
There you go then.
Yeah.
You'll get your own back.
And I mean, I felt really good. And then when I actually started with him, when the round started, that everything shifted. I realized that it was another dimension. That like his presence on the ring was such that I don't know how to explain it, but I find the same level of physical pressure that someone can place on someone else without really doing anything but just moving and having their presence. And I saw Lomachenko fight a couple of times live, and being close enough to the ring and feeling that he's imposing himself without firing anything for 2 to 3 rounds and dictating the pace just with this. I found that like like I don't know, it was mind blowing. So
cool.
Yeah, I mean, Richard, I think the first high kick he brought me in the ring. It just directed me, put me in a corner, and then I think he faked left and then put the left leg right on top and boop.
Done. Cut.
Yeah, cut. It's right there. That was that was my right eye. Took the left leg.
Done. Whoops. Perfect. And last question then, what's kind of your focus now? What are you looking to do in the next 5 years, 10 years, next year? What are you hoping to achieve and what have you got planned for the future?
So the plans for the future is actually I don't have really in terms of, like training career or teaching career. I'm so so lucky to be able to train Guru once a week.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've got to ask, what's that experience like, though, obviously training Guru? Because he has so many different teachers and so many different arts, and to be his instructor in something must be, a pretty cool experience.
You can match that. You can match that. It's I don't know how I can make people understand that when you have someone of that caliber that's asking you to train them and you there, and that person is 88 years old, is trained with like the top martial artists in the world, starting with Bruce Lee all the way to and
Ed Parker, Bruce Lee, all the way to the Gracies, even now.
And having him just giving you the time to work with him because he wants to learn, because he wants to train. It is so rewarding and so motivating to keep learning.
Sure.
And that's really, I think that was probably the factor that put me back into training. I mean, if, someone like him wants to keep learning at 88, why? Should I put myself in those shoes and try and do something for myself and learn and not being afraid to, at 88, like you have to be realistic. There's some physical limitations, like there's no questions, but those are not excuses. For not wanting to learn and wanting to train.
100%.
And that's the biggest lesson that I learned. And so it's, you can work within your limitations, but it is so inspiring. So, there's people like him. I had the chance to work with Brian Popjoy and Janet Todd and Jackie Boontown for her belt in one championship. And Sam, it was It was unbelievable. But again, it was just like not something I was looking for. Just had the opportunity. Brian, gave me a call. I was like, she's fighting Anissa. She's background in Savate. Like, would you be interested? I'm like,
Yeah.
I still love the game, and so working, closely with people of that caliber at my age, just like getting in the ring with them to make them feel what it could be like, or how different that can. The approach maybe was unbelievable. So and it worked. So it was beautiful.
Yeah, 100%.
And the most amazing thing was that. Brian would be like, okay, you're here. Well, they're there for you. So having working with Jackie Buntan and Janet Todd. So Janet Todd just had retired, but she had two belts.
Yeah.
And basically the work was to make her understand what Anissa could be doing. So like kind of mimicking her, which was like really against nature for her.
Mm-hmm.
So Jackie could find, like being more comfortable with the way Anissa was moving and like working on strategies to make her game work, because that's really what it was. Like, with Brian, we didn't want to change anything. Jackie is Jackie. Like, she has too many attributes. Like, you don't want to change that. You just want to make it work against that fighter specifically. That's it.
Perfect.
And so that was super, super, super interesting. So I love this time. I work with UFC, fighters also. So, striking, different type of striking, but with, MMA and coming and like not just working the outside, but understanding how, maintaining that range. Distance management basically is something that I'm very interested in. And that's what I think I used in my short Savate career, where I was taller than other people, and I think I used my range. I found ways to make it work. I mean, I didn't find those ways. I have to be honest, my coach was the one that made me understand this. But taking those experience and then, trying to find ways to use some of those drills for people to complement the game.
Perfect. Professor Nick, thank you so much for taking the time all the way from sunny LA. It's always good to catch up with you. Obviously, I saw you and met you face to face when I was in the Innocento Academy a couple of years ago.
Yes.
It was great to have some training time with you. I know, I'd love to. I do need to get back. Yeah, I do. I need to come and see you and say hello and see Guru and things like that and get some training in as well.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully, soon it'd be good. But it's always good to chat. I really appreciate it. You are a gent. You're an advocate for your art. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat again.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll catch up soon. Thank you.